decided I prepared these lessons lately every week, and then I can't do all that. I can't teach all that. And so then I come back, and I did this week. I come back, and I went, so wait a minute. So again, like last week, there's one main point to share with you, and I'm going to divide that up into two applications that we. And so beginning here in Genesis chapter 1, verses 14 through 19. And it'll be up on the screen. Then God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night. And let them be for signs and seasons and for days and for years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heavens to give light on the earth. And it was so. The greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. Of the heavens to give light on the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. So the evening and the morning were the fourth day. And so we're going to stop right there, and I want to consider this fourth. You know that, in the first chapter, God said, let there be, well, we are in the first chapter, but in the first few verses, in fact, and God divided light from darkness. He still, that was different, and basically he was the light of the world, and that was that light. But now, on this fourth day, is the day that he creates the sun, the moon, and in one day. Now, I know a lot of people think that's funny because that just doesn't go along with what we have learned at for creation to come together like that, and God, can you imagine? I mean, no, I don't think we can. We can't imagine. We don't understand power like that. Sun, moon, and stars. I think about what David said in Psalms 8, I think verse 3. He said, when I consider the sun, the moon, and the stars, man, that you were mindful of him. Have you ever felt like that? And just feel really small. But the thing is if of our environment, a lot of times our world is just the places that we go. Because of the internet and TV, we know that there's more out there, whether we've ever been there or not. Right? There's a lot of countries that I've never been to. Border Mexico, I did that on a mission trip, and we had just crossed to the side of the border. That's the only time I've actually traveled outside of So I know it's out there because I see there's a world out here, and it's huge, isn't it? It's huge. It's like you feel small when you think about the billions of people on earth. I have no explanation. And then to think about this earth, and I decided not to go for a bunch of statistics and stuff. Look up in the sky, and you know that there are so many stars and planets and moons up there. And the universe is so vast that God has created. And it just speaks of the power of God. Well, I know a lot of people that would laugh at that statement of God created the world and he worked 6 days, he rested on the 7th, all the creation. People would laugh at that. No different than Sarah laughed when the angel of the Lord came to Abraham Abraham and Sarah. Sarah was still inside the tent. Abraham was outside, and he met these, and he knew that there was something different about these people. And they looked at Abraham now and told him once again, they had visited before, Abraham before on more than one occasion, and said, you're going to give birth to a son. You're going to have a nation, man. And he was pretty old in years. Well, 25 years have gone by since God first promised him that in chapter 12 of Genesis. The son yet, right? And so they had one with a handmaid, but it didn't. That wasn't what. Nothing happened because that's not what God had planned. Promised him, but it took a long time. 25 years have gone by. Now Sarah is 90 years old. Abraham's 100. And said by this time, by the time of life, meaning in 9 months, you're going. And Sarah was inside the tent laughing. She was laughing about it. And God said, no, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And Sarah tried to deny, well, no, I didn't laugh. Abraham said, but you did laugh about this. Because it just seems impossible giving birth. And for us, it would be impossible. But with God, all things are possible. If God can do that, and listen, if God can create the sun, the moon, the stars in one day's time, anything. And that's just how powerful he is today. So scientists can mock, people can say, under 10,000 years old is y'all try to report, the Bible says that couldn't be. What about this? What about that? What about God? And I'm going to tell you, you can disbelieve if you want to. You'll not get to heaven disbelieving. Get there, it's not going to happen. We don't have to understand it. And we're not going to understand it all. But we have to believe. On one thing, we're going to be tripped up on another and another and another, and we're not a believer at all. Abraham believed God, and it was for righteousness. What a powerful God. I can imagine creating all that in such a can't do anything. And God can do anything in your life. Anything. Anything. Trust in God. Okay? Trust Him. So there's 4 reasons here that God. Now there are other reasons. I have no doubt of it. And you can think of different reasons yourself. But there's 4 important things that God wanted to tell. He decided to make the sun, moon, and the stars. Okay? The first one was for signs. And the Hebrew word there, when you have to understand it on the original language. You can't understand it by a second-hand language. Nothing really. You're going to miss a lot of the meaning. And so there was utah here, utah. And it's the pearl of that, O-T. And that is translated correctly just to mean sign. It was sign. You know, and what is it? Is for information, right? Think about those road signs. What are the road signs out there driving today is perilous. I know that driving is dangerous. Don't pay no attention to signs either, right? They drive the way they want to drive. But the road signs, I can imagine what it'd be like if we had an intersection, would we? Big trouble. The signs are there for a good purpose. We see a speed limit sign, we know this is as fast as we're supposed to go. We see the stop sign, we know that whether we do or not, that means you're supposed to come to a stop. Yield, you're supposed to slow up, and driving through that has the right of way. I mean, we have these signs, information, okay? And God said He placed the sun, moon, and stars up there to give us, not just for scientific reasons you might think of, they're there as a sign in the sky to give us information. It's like the rainbow, right? Kind of like a rainbow. God says, I set my rainbow in the cloud, and it shall be for a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. Rainbow up there for oot, a sign, a sign. That rainbow there after a rain, look just right where the sun's at, you know, and it shines through it. You see that rainbow? As a Christian, we promise right on, right on. All these years later, right on. We'll continue to be here as long as it's the whole earth again. That is, I'll never destroy this world by a flood. He will destroy this world again, but and He will destroy it the second time by fire. God, up in the heavens, up in the canopy, the firmament, which was a canopy around the earth. We have signs for information that tell us things. And yet, like today, there's a rainbow, so today God gives us signs in the sky. I don't always understand it, right? I mean, so an eclipse can be a sign. Right? Alignment of the planets may be speaking about something. And never think that God's given us a sign is to deny the biblical truth, that God put them up there to give us signs. Again, I don't know what all they're saying. Maybe we ought to pay more attention, right, to the sky. Second thing was for there were signs and there was seasons. There was Ut and there was Moedim. Moedim spoke of the seasons. You know what the seasons are? A particular place for a particular amount of time. We have 4 seasons, right? 4 seasons to the year. This appointed time. In other words, when He said, I put them up there for a sign and seasons, He's saying, I put the appointed times. The appointed time. And yes, God has appointed particular things of year. Just like He said, 6 days He created all things, and the 7th He rested. Now today, we don't worship on the Sabbath. That we're supposed to follow as the nations of the world, that we're supposed to observe the on the Sabbath. So, but the principle applies. 6 days God created the world, and the 7th He rested, and He set aside days to be holy And for us, Sunday works best for most people because that's the day most people are off work. Won't do. But to go a week and not worship Him is to be disobedient. So in Leviticus chapter 23, right, and I have preached from that chapter before. In that chapter, we have to it. So I think the seasons, it primarily is talking about Leviticus. Festivals that were given to the children of Israel, they're all outlined in that chapter. And each one of these speak of the past and what had happened, and also look forward to the future, to what will happen. First of those feasts was called the Passat. It was the Passover, as we refer to it, the Passover, and the Jews often categorize this into one. That to them, the Passover, if you break it down into two, then that makes 7 days outlined in that chapter. Part of the season, the appointed times. And interesting enough, and we all know that all that spoke of what of Christ giving His life on the cross, right? That's what it spoke of. His sacrifice that was brought out in the time of Moses. Christ, our Passover, as it says in the New Testament, He is the Feast of Tabernacles, which spoke way up in the future of the millennium, when Christ fulfills His promise to come down here and to reign. When it happened, it will happen in His second coming. He's coming, and the Feast of Tabernacles refers to that. Now, each of these three by seasons, and that's what God did. He placed them, and the children of Israel were supposed to observe these at a particular time. This month, I want you to observe this. And it followed the sun, moon, and the stars, and it followed the harvest. Even today, a harvest a few months later, right? Because it's all centered around the sun, moon, and stars. God placed them up there, and He placed everything in motion to give us we're to do certain things, just like to remember Him in the holy days. Particularly, there's other ones too. It was added like Purim from the book of have to observe those like the Hebrews, because we're not Hebrew and they were not to, again, the principles apply that we ought not to just act like as if we're outside of God. And we should have times, to where we observe things of God. Right on the appointed time. The third thing was He just placed them up there kind of like a calendar, so we could keep up with time and years. I'm placing them up there for days and years. Well, we wouldn't even know when to go to sleep. I think if the sun didn't go down, people work all the time, some folks, until they just drop. And we see some here and then. I mean, there would be no order to nothing had He not placed the order in the universe of the sun. We can calculate, we can keep up with time, we can figure out what the day is, and we can just, God does things in an orderly way. For people to live this way, that there's no order in your life at all, is not the way God does. He's a very organized, orderly God. Does he haphazard? Okay, so some order is a good. He's done it for life, just life. The sun, moon, and stars, he calls them the lights. He placed the lights in the sky. You know, and they look like lights. They look like, kind of like over the Christmas tree and all over everything. And in the dark, it's just like a bunch of white lights. And just kind of like, you look up in the sky on the dark night. It's full, it's bright, isn't it? It's bright. It captures your attention if you go, you know, and then it's really bright, and you can see around. It's not shining the sun's light, so we can see by the light. And so he's placed them up there just for navigation. You can't see, you can't navigate. You ever try walking through a dark, pitch dark? For sure, right? You're going to bump into things, even though you've been in the bedroom all these years. You're going to bump into something if the lights are. Navigate. And sailors have been for a long time. You know, through that thing they call the sextant. Stars are and stuff, and they could figure out which direction that they were going. To navigate, they are a thing of beauty, and etc., etc., etc. And the stars, but these 4 reasons, for signs, for seasons, for days, for navigate. Now, I don't think we should follow astrology. Some people have got into that. And some people get into it. They don't even realize, well, this is kind of witchcraft stuff, ain't it? Astrology. Be all wrapped up into your horoscope and what the stars say and things like that. To them, to look at God. Not as if, well, what's God? Is God trying to say something through this unusual to the stars? And they were this unusual star. And apparently they knew the scriptures like that talked about a king being born. Other scriptures as well. And these men put it together. They weren't putting this thing together. And they seen this unusual star. Prophecies being fulfilled that a king is going to be born. Fascinating. I've just seen the star. They must have been educated people in more than one way. Spoke so strongly to them that they just paid these gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Jews that a king of the Jews, a very special king, was into it, their time into it, and they traveled to Jerusalem. These 3 with them, or at least not kings necessarily. With them. Nobody traveled by themselves in those days. They would have had He is born King of the Jews. For we have seen in the sky, and very special, and they put it all together and felt very strongly with confidence. Don't tell me that God doesn't speak through in the Bible, like the rainbow and the Magi. See, God is super powerful that He's able to create. And then God said, I'm speaking to you. His creation and His universe. A little attention more to creation around us. It might would be a God in the things around us. To the point where you think God is in every religions. No, God is not everything. Through things that are around us. Today, it's not over yet. To come in the future. To us. Now, I don't know why that God would be. I don't know why God would even care. Is that He would even be thoughtful of a wretch like me. He does. The Bible. And when you trust Him and believe Him and begin to, you will begin to see His hand at work in your life. You will His purpose. And see, part of the problem is the power of God. Going here and going there, and they're not mindful of God. Recognizing the power of God. Most of the people that are on the road, they're living their life as if the Bible says, the fool has said in his heart, there is no God. And that's what's going on. They may be smart, way smarter than us. But if they don't believe in God, they're not. And then they're wasting their time that God has given. They're wasting their life. For people. God's got a purpose. In creation. And there's a purpose and a reason for us. You say, well, Pastor, I don't understand what my purpose is. What you have. Serve the Lord with what you have. Going to and fro that have left God out of their equation. Or that there's a God until they wanting help from God. Don't be like that. God right now in His creation and what's around you. Understand, Magi, who knew there was a purpose for that, like people who look up to the rainbow. And God is speaking through these things, trying to get our attention about to get more disturbances in the sky. At least for this reason, if not others, that God tries to get our attention to say, see my hand in these things. That's not the usual. Wake up and see me in this thing. And to see serving the Lord. He placed us here to serve Him, to worship Him. Worship people. That's how you serve God. Serving people. You say, well, I don't mind serving God else because, they ain't really done much for me. No. You serve God by serving people. It's impossible to separate the difference and say, well, we're going to heaven, to be with God, but with these people down here on earth, I don't really care much about these people. To love the one that you can't see and hate the one you can see. It just makes no sense to add up, because it's impossible to do that. We have to love. You don't have to love everything they do. That's good news. You don't have to love everything they do. You don't have to love the way they treat you. You don't have to love them, but you just have to have love for your fellow man. He has a purpose. There's a reason you're created. Like He told Jeremiah, I knew you before. Already purpose, that you would be my mouthpiece for that generation. God had a purpose for Moses. He had a purpose for Paul. He has a purpose for us too. Okay? Maybe right here, around the people that you come in contact with every day. Even around those in your own household. Somebody is right in their house. Whether anybody listens to you, has got to set the example of what to do. So we'll walk with God if nobody takes a stand to do that. Many years ago, I looked at the wife, and the wife looked at me, and I said, I think we ought to start going to church. What do you think about that? I didn't do it. And because we made a choice and a decision, we talk about it, and you won't have to never show up. That's just the way it works. If you're not fulfilling God's purpose, you're just living for your own self. You're always going to feel like there's something lacking in my life. You're always going to feel that. There's a hole there. And you're going to know there's a hole there. See, that's the thing. Everybody wants to stay busy about nothing, but I'm going to be stand to not have something going on, because they might. So they fill their self with busyness. Know that I am God. And sometimes if we're serving them, doing somebody else in the name of Jesus, minister within us. It will, because it's the fulfillment of purpose. why we were created. Seek your purpose in your life. Okay? That's all I had to say this morning. We're going to close out with a stand with us and sing along with us. You're welcome to pray. Or, no need to just walk out that door and leave and go pay your back here. Right? That makes good sense too.